Hey guys, this is George and I'm back with a new video. In this video we're going to discuss John Wick 3 Parabellum. So my wife and I are huge fans of the John Wick series, and so we kind of knew already that we really wanted to see this one, and I'll go ahead and say it did not disappoint. But before we get into that, I did want to say there are spoilers for not only John Wick 3 but also the previous entries in the film, so if you haven't seen it, you're more than welcome to go watch and come back. And if you're still here, well, let's get into it. So here's a brief recap of the series so far. So in John Wick 1, we're introduced to John Wick. He's actually an elite assassin, but what's so special about him is he actually managed to do the undoable, and he managed to escape the dark life of an elite assassin and go on to do something that never happens to people who walk the dark path. He went on to live a happy life, and he actually married. So in his life as an assassin, he was actually known as the Baba Yaga, or the boogeyman of the dark world of murder for hire, but John left it all behind for love. Unfortunately, it wasn't going to last because his wife passes away untimely, and John's kind of left at a crossroads in his life. He could go back to being the elite assassin and walking that dark path, or he could continue to try having a life outside of that dark world. Well, his late wife wasn't leaving that to chance, and she wanted to ensure that he stayed on the good path. So she does something. She gives him one last gift, and it's actually a puppy. And so at first, John seems unsure of the puppy, but in no time, they're actually inseparable. Unfortunately, that's not going to last either. So John's retired now, and he's driving around in his nice car, and he actually gets marked by some thugs, and he's kind of the victim of a home invasion. They actually managed to kind of sneak up on him. I mean, he's been retired for a few years, and they managed to catch him by surprise, and they brutally beat him. But what's worse is that, his puppy tries to jump in and tries to help him, and his puppy's beaten to death. So John survives this, but he's out for blood, and he literally cuts a bloody swath through anyone who stands in his way of getting to the thugs responsible for murdering his dog. And we'll just say by the end of that movie, he has a huge kill count. And so in the next film, John Wick Chapter 2, or John Wick 2, we're kind of dealt with the fallout of his decision to go back into that life as an assassin, when an old acquaintance returns and calls in a favor on a debt that he actually has to pay. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's something that has to be paid. And so John's kind of set on the dark path again. And the movie ends with John making a fateful decision to take a life on neutral ground, because in the world of assassins, there's kind of these very specific rules about where and when you can take a life, and he actually takes a life on neutral grounds, and it causes him to be marked for death by every assassin on the planet. And here's where John Wick 3 Parabellum begins. We see John and his faithful canine companion on the run as the world closes in around them. Honestly, explosive is not an understatement when talking about John Wick movies, but this one takes it to another level. We get motorcycle sword battles, horse-kicking destruction, knife and axe-throwing free-for-alls, double-tap kills like you've never seen. If you enjoy action movies that seek to outdo every action sequence that came before, John Wick 3 does not disappoint. Story-wise, it's very straightforward and at times even larger than life, but the true joy in the story is the fleshing out of John's mysterious past and being introduced to the myriad of characters in this world of assassins. I think Keanu does a fine job of slipping back into Wick's shoes, and he actually seems even more comfortable in the role the third time around. As is the same in the previous entries, people know John, and it builds onto the mythology of the once and future Baba Yaga. This brings him face to face with everyone from the mysterious director played by Angelica Houston to Sophia, as played by Halle Berry, who also seems to have this entangled past with John. And also, I just want to give major props to the canine co-stars in this movie. They actually win the hearts of everyone, I think. But Sophia's dogs are actually really essential and pretty awesome to one of the best action sequences in the movie. And I honestly love them all, but I especially love John Wick's dog. I'm a sucker for pit bulls, and I really like his pit bull. I was also enormously impressed with Barry's addition to the film, and her character Sophia honestly seems to be an equal in skills to Wick. and I think it would be great to see her developed in future films, so I'm really hoping they bring her back for more. From what I've seen, John Wick 4 is already being worked on, so there's a good chance she could come back. Lawrence Fishburne, Ian McShane, and Lance Reddick all reprised their roles from the previous film, and while Fishburne has a lot less screen time in this film, it seems like they're teasing big things for him in John Wick 4. McShane and Reddick have much larger roles in this film, and in one of the biggest twists I actually didn't see coming, it appears that they may possibly be building up to something more. This movie literally ends on a cliffhanger where we see McShane literally shoot John off of the roof of the Continental Hotel, and it's kind of hard to say whether he'll be a full-blown villain in the next film or kind of remain an anti-hero. After watching the film, my wife and I kind of discussed this, and she told me that she thought that maybe this was something they planned, but I'm kind of the other way. I mean, he literally plummets from the top of a roof, so it's kind of like if they meet again and McShane's character Winston's telling him, "Oh, I was just playing, you knew I was playing, right?" It's like, no, you tried to kill me. You literally shot me off of a roof. And if you watch the film, I'd love to know what you guys think, because it's kind of played either way. Like, there could be something more, or like McShane's probably going to be a big villain coming forward. So I don't know, but I really want to see John Wick 4 to find out more of the story. Asia Kate Dillon plays the adjudicator in the film, and she's something entirely new and pretty intriguing. She's kind of the bridge to this mysterious table that's like this organization that seems to control everything. They talk about above and below the table, and in this kind of world of assassins, I'm honestly not sure exactly what they mean, but she's a really interesting character. She's not really a villain, even though she works for, I guess, the film's villains, and she does order assassinations and such. And she actually doesn't stop there. She actually comes after everyone who helped John Wick in the previous films. She's just this kind of unusual type of non-villain. She's more of a messenger of the will of the table, and I hope she returns for part 4, because I'd like to see more of her character and maybe have her fleshed out some more. And the last character who I feel deserves a nod is Mark Dacascos' Zero. We're first introduced to this eccentric assassin when the adjudicator approaches a sushi stand and slides a black coin across the table, and Zero immediately understands, but before proceeding to accept the offer, he offers her some blowfish sushi that he literally just prepared, and he mentions that it's deadly if not prepared correctly. And she accepts the sushi and just eats it, but it was just a strange and pretty cool introduction, I thought. But what I really liked about Dacascos is he's surprisingly charming in the role, and rather than playing the kind of one-note, silent, killer, strong type, he's actually really chatty, and he seems to genuinely be a fan of John Wick and his work. He's definitely a John Wick fanboy, and this offers some of the funniest moments in the film for me. At one point, John has literally delivered the killing blow, but Zero's not quite dead yet, and he literally pushes himself up to his knees and remarks about it being a good fight. And then you just see John Wick staring at him kind of oddly, and he's like, yeah, good fight. It honestly reminded me of One Punch Man. If you've seen One Punch Man, he's just this unimaginably powerful character, and there's always these people who want to match their power against him, but he's so powerful it really doesn't matter. And you always hear the characters who are trying to fight One Punch Man talk about how they're raising their power up to this super powerful level to try and match Saitama, and he's just literally like, okay, because he's so powerful, nobody can match him. And it's just kind of a funny moment like that, or that's the vibe that I got, and I really liked it a lot. I thought it was really funny. I heard a lot of people in the audience laughing. I think he was really great, and I honestly would have loved if John had spared him and maybe made him kind of like a future ally like he does, because in previous movies he spares people, and he does it in this movie too, but unfortunately he doesn't do it for Zero, and Zero does die. But Dacascos really deserves a lot of credit for bringing this oddly fun villain character to these movies, and I don't think we've seen a character like him yet in this franchise, so he really deserves a lot of credit. And I really think that it's small but great moments like these that really add up to make John Wick 3 Parabellum such a fun and exciting film ride. And if you've been a fan of the John Wick series, I think you'll love John Wick 3. And if you're new to the series, and if you're somebody who's squeamish to blood and death, well, maybe this isn't something for you, but I would say give it a chance at least. Also, the only other thing I would say is the movie continues the story from the previous two films, so you'll honestly probably want to watch those before seeing this one, or I could see it being pretty confusing. So overall, I love John Wick 3. Great action movies can really be hard to come by, so if you like action flicks, you'll want to go see John Wick 3. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed the review, leave a like. And if you loved it, feel free to share it, subscribe for more content, and as always, thank you so much for watching.